many works of art, both paintings and prints from ancient Japan, that depict the horror of ghosts according to their time. Some of these may already be familiar to us due to their wide popularity on the internet. One of the most famous creators is Katsushika Hokusai, a maestro of Japanese art. He is widely known for his captivating works, especially the series 36 Views of Mount Fuji. Hokusai, who lived during the Edo period, was a versatile artist. Not only did he master the ukiyo-e technique, or woodblock prints, but he was also skilled in painting and sketching. This time, I will showcase some of his works related to ghosts, along with the frightening stories behind them. Our story begins during Japan's Edo period, between 1603 and 1867. At that time, the country's rulers limited contact with the outside world. With little foreign influence, art within Japan's borders flourished, particularly in the woodblock print style known as ukiyo-e. Images were carved onto a piece of wood, inked, and then printed onto paper. This printing method produced some remarkable artists and works of art. However, arguably the master of ukiyo-e was Katsushika Hokusai. It is believed that Hokusai created 30,000 unique works of art, including his famous Hokusai manga, a 15-volume collection of sketches on various topics. As he aged, Hokusai became increasingly fascinated with the supernatural. He spent much of his time creating prints featuring supernatural creatures from folklore, known as yokai. There was a unique activity in Japanese society at the time called Hyakumonogatari Kaidankai. On certain nights, people would gather and sit in a room illuminated by 100 candles. They took turns telling frightening stories related to yokai or ghosts. With each story completed, one candle would be blown out. After the last candle was extinguished, it was said that a spirit would appear. This artwork by Hokusai is related to the ghost of Okiku. The story is often referred to as Bansho Sarayashiki, or the Dish Mansion of Bansho. This Japanese ghost tale involves a broken promise that leads to a tragic fate. All versions of the story revolve around a servant who dies and then haunts the living. According to one of the most common versions, the events take place in Himeji, now part of Hyogo Prefecture. The story tells of a female servant who worked as a dishwasher at Himeji Castle. Okiku was known for her beauty, which attracted one of her lord's retainers, a samurai named Aoyama. Aoyama repeatedly attempted to court the servant, but she constantly rejected him, which made him furious. In retaliation, Aoyama tried to trap her into becoming his lover by hiding one of the 10 valuable plates belonging to their lord. Aoyama then called for the servant and questioned her about the missing valuable plate. Okiku was terrified, as losing one of her lord's prized possessions was a crime punishable by death. She began counting the plates, one by one. But no matter how many times she counted, one plate was still missing. Aoyama offered to help her by making excuses to their lord, but only if she agreed to become his lover. Though afraid of being sentenced to death, Okiku still refused Aoyama's demand. Furious, Aoyama tortured her by repeatedly dunking her into a well. Despite the torture, Okiku refused to comply, so Aoyama eventually killed her with his sword and threw her body into the well. From that moment on, every night, Okiku's spirit emerged from the well and searched for the missing plate inside the castle. She would count the plates from 1 to 9, and then let out a piercing scream that echoed throughout the castle. It was said that anyone who heard her counting would fall gravely ill, and those who heard her reach 9 would die. Eventually, the lord of the castle summoned a priest to pray and calm the restless spirit. Once again, Okiku's ghost emerged from the well and began counting the plates. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But before she could scream, the waiting priest shouted, 10! Okiku's spirit was finally at peace, believing the missing plate had been found. From that moment on, she never haunted the castle again. This story is based on real events that occurred around the year 1700 and was only written down in 1803 in the Fukushu Kidan Asaka no Numa, or The Miraculous Tale of Vengeance from Asaka Marsh. According to one version, Koheiji was a third-rate actor in the Moritaza theater group who trained under Master Unagi Taroba. He was known as a poor actor with an unattractive appearance, pale skin, hollow eyes, and disheveled hair. Koheiji often struggled to land significant roles. One day, with the help of his manager, he managed to get a role as a ghost. Koheiji seized this opportunity by studying the faces of the dead, mimicking their movements and practicing his eerie voice. His hard work eventually paid off. His performance was widely praised, and he became known as a talented ghost actor. Koheiji married Otsuka, the widow of Ikushima Hanroku, an actor who was executed for killing Ichikawa Danjuro on stage. Koheiji deeply loved Otsuka, but Otsuka was embarrassed by her new husband and fell in love with Adachi Sakuro, a taiko player from the same theater group. Otsuka asked Sakuro to get rid of Koheiji so they could be together forever. One day, Sakuro invited Koheiji to go fishing in a remote marsh. There, Sakuro hit Koheiji with his fishing rod, causing him to fall into the marsh and drown. Sakuro then fled to his friend Unpei's hideout. Upon arrival, Sakuro was shocked to find Koheiji's wet body already there. Unpei himself did not know how Koheiji's body had appeared in his home. Suddenly, Koheiji's body moved and grasped Sakuro's wrist. Sakuro tried to free himself, but was unsuccessful. Unpei attempted to help by pulling at Koheiji's body, but it was in vain. Finally, Unpei cut off Koheiji's fingers one by one, allowing Sakuro to escape to Edo. In Edo, Sakuro and Otsuka lived together as husband and wife. However, 6 months later, Sakuro began to doubt Otsuka's fidelity after repeatedly seeing other men in their bed. One day, unable to bear it any longer, Sakuro attacked Otsuka with a sword. But the sword was suddenly held by wet fingers. Both Otsuka and Sakuro then heard Koheiji's terrifying laughter. Since that event, Koheiji's ghost continued to haunt them. Sakuro was constantly terrified, and Otsuka frequently fell ill. Otsuka eventually died. After Otsuka's death, Sakuro faced a series of misfortunes. He was often deceived by his own friends, fell into poverty, and eventually became a beggar. Over time, he became emaciated, ill, and was found dead by the roadside. His body was swollen, resembling a drowned corpse. Of course, Hokusai wasn't the only artist who enjoyed painting yokai. Contemporary to Hokusai, there was also Kuniyoshi, who had his own unique style. One of his works includes the story of Umibozu, a giant ghostly figure that would appear before sailors in the middle of a typhoon. After Hokusai's death, Japan began opening its borders to the outside world. Hokusai's beautiful woodblock prints reached a wider audience. For example, The Great Wave became one of the most widely reproduced works of art in history. The introduction of Western art also brought other changes. Traditional Japanese manga, pioneered by Hokusai, evolved with the influence of American comic books, creating manga as we know it today. Even in its animated form, Western styles blended with traditional Japanese tastes, slowly developing into the anime we are familiar with now.